We are live running solo tonight. Mark is off coaching the youth of America to greatness, and it is a very funny and interesting day. I'm truly kind of kind of blown away by it. To tell the truth, I knew Trump was fast on like wit and stuff like that, but my fucking goodness, what an amazing amazing fucking set of events that this guy has put up. Wild, like literally just wild. I'm just going to hop right to it, frankly. Let me pull this up here for you. So, of course, everybody knows this piece of footage right here. This piece of footage is now, well, infamous, I guess you could call it. But here we go.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware.
And by the way, just for you that are wondering, I called he was cognitively declining in 2000, like right before he got elected. You could see him just fading in the nomination process, and he's been slipping for years and years before that. Obviously, he was a running joke. Like he is the first prototype for what they're doing with Kamala Harris, because for anybody to even believe that he should have been the nominee, it makes it so it's like overly ridiculous. There are comedy routines. Robin Williams used to do a whole comedy routine about how fucking stupid and fucked up this guy was. Like a whole routine about how moronic he was, which also makes you want to look back and wonder if Robin Williams actually took his own life. But now that I'm thinking about it, kind of weird. And that would be a travesty because Robin Williams was an amazing man. Here we go.
Good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see out there is his supporters.
I mean, to just openly say the only garbage I see are his supporters. Here's the thing. Do I think that he thinks that? I don't know. I really don't. I don't think he thinks much. I'm going to be honest. I don't think he actually does much thinking. I don't think he can do much thinking. He seemed like he was stumbling over his words there. Now, here's the conundrum that the Democrats are in, the left is in right now, because you can't really call them the Democrats, because if you're an actual Democrat, you wouldn't be voting for Kamala Harris because she is in fact endorsed by Dick Cheney. And if you were an actual Democrat, you would never, ever, 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 ever vote for somebody that is endorsed by warmongers. You're not a Democrat if you're voting for Kamala Harris at all. You're a leftist. There's a huge difference, and you are showing the example of it, because there's Democrats, like 90s Democrats, the people that grew up being Democrat over the last couple of decades. No fucking way would any Democrat truly vote for Kamala Harris being endorsed by Liz and Dick Cheney at all. It's just wild to me. The same people that talk about how billionaires are horrible because of Elon Musk. What do you think Dick Cheney is? How do you think he got to be that way? He's a war machine. He's the warmonger, right? It's anyway. But Joe Biden was historically known to be a fuck up, historically known, and they made him more popular just by saying it was. They put it out into the ether. Oh, he's on top of it and he's sharp. And no, he's not. He's fucking cognitively declining elderly man. We've seen 4 years of elderly abuse that, they basically propped this dude up as it was a fucking, he was an actual fucking president. And there's no way. If you believe he was making the decisions in the White House, you're pretty fucking stupid. Just going to put that out there. But here is something that I think that is the most amazing answer. This is literally from tonight. He is now. I'm sure most of you have seen this right now, but holy shit!
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden. How do you like?
This isn't even 24 hours later. It's not even 24 hours later. Like, who is helping? Like, and I'm not saying Trump can't do it by himself, but who is helping him with this, with the comedy stick bits? Like, he had a meme on his Twitter account that had him sticking his thumbs up out the window of McDonald's saying that if I get elected, the McDonald's ice cream machine will always be working. Who's helping him with this? I gotta say though, this is wild. This is wild because if you take a look here, this is Vivek also arriving on a garbage truck.
Hey. USA! You are the man. Ready to take out the garbage. Good to see you guys. Love you, brother. We took out some trash today. Good luck. Good to see you. Good to see you. Some real trash. Good to see you, man. How are you? Very good. Very good to see you. How are you? Good to see you. You're good trash.
So funny. Here's what I think happened, right? First of all, watching Kamala Harris try to backtrack this, walk it back, or ignore it, or stuff like that, that's been priceless all day long. The meltdown is palpable. I've seen a lot of people suggest that Biden's doing this on purpose to tank Kamala. He's not helping her by any stretch of the imagination, but people, he's gone. He's not there anymore. Joe Biden is not a cognitive person. He's not like playing 4D chess. He's not like secretly trying to fucking sabotage Kamala. He probably doesn't know where the fuck he's at 90% of the goddamn time. I worked in healthcare for a dozen years. Several of the facilities that I was in charge of were freestanding Alzheimer's buildings. I spent quite a bit of time around people in cognitive decline, and I am not a doctor. I cannot diagnose, but you don't need to be a doctor or be able to diagnose to realize that dude is losing his marbles. It's just, it happens. I mean, chances are Joe has led a very disgusting life. And chances are they've had him drugged up so fucking hard for the last 8 to 12 years to try to make him seem passable as a cognitive human being that it's just getting to be too much. So I don't believe by any stretch of imagination he did this master plan to try to, in some way sabotage Kamala because they booted him out. He probably doesn't even realize that he's not running at this stage. But I do find it funny. I wanted to point something else out. The rhetoric has gotten to be so ridiculous. Like the left feels so emboldened in like just labeling Trump and Trump supporters as everything from domestic terrorists, threat to democracy, existential. This is the best one. The existential threat to democracy. When you add existential to it, that means it's like imminent, like something absolutely needs to get done. Like they're stoking up the fire, right? Basically. I mean, so it doesn't surprise me that like Joey, who is losing his fucking marbles, is going to just try to say as much as he can about a subject in a negative way and call names to not only Trump, but the people that support him. This is what the left is showing. In the last several weeks, Kamala Harris told people that Christ is King, Jesus is Lord, that they were at the wrong rally. I thought you were trying to be president of America. Don't you need to like love America and love Americans? Like my wife points this out to me all the time. My wife is an incredible critical thinker. But, a couple of years ago, Joe Biden came out and said that there's nothing special about being American. There's nothing special about being an American citizen. To me and her, she's the one who pointed it out to me. That's disqualifying as the president of the United States. You should, if you are going to lead this country, you should want it to be the most special, unique place in the world. You should want it to be the greatest in the world. You should want it to be great. But by telling American citizens that there's nothing special about it, well, isn't it your job to do something about that, Joe? Haven't you been in office for 40-some fucking years? We're getting short-timed here. Like it is getting to be, pretty close. Pretty close to the election. We got a Tuesday now. Do I think the election day it's going to be over? Even if Trump makes it so big that they can't rig it, which honestly, I'm just going to be as honestly as I can be. If they try to announce Kamala as the winner, it's not going to float. Like I'm foreseeing that, and this is not a threat by any stretch of imagination, YouTube or any of these other people. any of these other entities, this is not a threat. This is a prediction. No matter what, and I mean this, violence is likely coming, and it's tragic. But if you guys don't think that like they're going to riot and burn down their own fucking cities should Trump win, you haven't been paying attention at all whatsoever. I would be fucking terrified to live in LA. I'd be terrified to live in San Francisco. I'd be terrified to live in Chicago, New York, Detroit, any of these fucking cities, any of these leftist cities that are already having problems with migrants and shit like that. I'd be terrified to be in them the day after this, because if Trump wins, they're going to light that shit on fire, by my opinion, and it's going to be horrible. However, the movement is so big, it's so huge, that if Trump loses, even with Republicans massively ahead on early voting for the first time in forever, even with historic levels of Black voters, Hispanic voters, the entire Border Patrol, like it's an unbelievable number of people that are supporting this man. If he loses, I just don't think that people are going to have any faith that in our elections. And here's the thing, federal government, dear federal government, it is unacceptable for you to know that a huge portion of the United States, whether it be the left or the right, if they don't have faith in the vote, that means there's no faith in the government. If there's no faith in if there's no faith in the vote and there's no faith in the government, it is time to dissolve the government. That's how the founding papers work, right? Without faith in the government, as a reminder to those of you that don't know this, and as a reminder to anybody from the federal government that's watching, you guys govern by our consent. That's the deal. And if we can't have faith in the vote, it's time to rescind that consent. One way or the other, I foresee that there are going to be states that start secession processes, or at least threaten to. I can see California, if Trump wins, I can see California trying to secede. California, Washington, Oregon, the entire west coast of the United States. I can see them trying to secede. Absolutely. Feel free to join Canada, bitches. But if Trump loses, I can see people not accepting it. Rightfully so. I don't understand, and this is something that I've been putting on my X for the last little bit. Why don't we audit every federal election? We need to have faith in the vote. And here's the thing. We should treat anybody that's caught trying to cheat in the elections, like if you're trying to, I don't know, fraudulently put a bunch of votes in for one candidate. If you are doing it personally, that punishment should be how we used to punish traitors. You guys can look that shit up, because I'm not going to say it online because they'll fucking boot me right the fuck off here. But how we used to handle traitors definitely needs to make a comeback for traitors, because if we did that, there'd be a lot less traitors. Like if it was that we pulled your breathing card, I think that there would be a lot less people trying to cheat in our elections, because it clearly happens. Clearly. So that's my thoughts on that. I really wish we could have it so it would be, audited every single time. I don't understand why we don't audit every federal election. But my note to you, since we're getting short-timed, and honestly, Mark and I are taking tomorrow off for Halloween for our families. We're going to do a live on Friday in the afternoon, likely, and then it'll be Monday, and the Monday leads into Tuesday. But I just got to say this. I don't believe there's anybody out there that hasn't made up their mind already. I don't think somebody's like, oh, I don't know. Am I going to vote for somebody that is saying that, we need to crack down on free speech and we need to have mandatory gun buybacks, and, children should be chopping their dicks off when they're 13 years old if they think that they're they, them, and puberty blockers for everybody, and, all that stupid bullshit, along with destroying the economy more and, price controls, which is a communist fucking concept, all that shit, right? And keeping our energy costs super, super high, or you're voting for somebody promising to give you, 50% cut and reduction of energy, trying to make America healthy again, a dream team. Like, here's my thing. I'd be voting for Trump anyway, no matter what right now, because I'd be voting for RFK. If RFK would have won the Democratic nomination, I might be thinking a little differently, because what he's saying to me, and don't get me wrong, I don't like how RFK talks about guns. I don't at all. I think all gun laws are unconstitutional. However, Trump says I'm not super fucking happy about either. And Trump handled the pandemic extremely poorly, in my opinion. So I'd be voting for the man RFK if he was a Democrat right now. And I'm saying that because the attempt to make America healthy again, that has a widespread multifactorial effect on our society, all in a positive way, and for our freedom. Because if we make it so pharmaceutical companies cannot advertise, and the healthcare industry is seen as for what it is, for acute injury only, and we try to reduce down the chronic illness disease burden that is crushing us to the tune of over $3 trillion a year in shared medical expenses. If we could save $3 trillion fucking dollars a year in shared societal burden in our healthcare system because we make America healthy again, imagine what that money could do in spending power for the American people. Like, your insurance should not cost you hundreds of dollars a month, especially if you don't use it. Like, most people, we live in the only country in the world where people pay hundreds of dollars a month for health insurance and oftentimes avoid going to the doctor because they still can't afford the deductible. It's broken. Absolutely broken. And by the way, RFK, if you are looking for somebody, I was a healthcare executive for a long time with focus on nutrition, and I help morbidly obese people get to healthy weights for a living. I know my shit. I would gladly help you in any fucking way. Besides that, make America healthy again is a phrase that Mark and I came up with 3 years ago. We even had shirts printed up for it. So we're thinking on the same level. But I'd be voting for, even if Trump said something horrible, I'm voting for Tulsi Gabbard, RK, Vivek, fucking the rest of his crew, Elon Musk, to actually try to make it so we don't, if we could reduce the government size by 80%, that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. It would be wonderful. But I am also, and I'm going to say this with my full chest, right now, I'm voting for Donald Trump, because I got to be honest, ever since the first assassination attempt, he got me. He won me over, because here's a man that does not need to be up there. He's in his late 70s, grandkids all around, billionaire. He does not need to be there. He does not need to be. And some of now don't get me wrong, he gets elected, I'll be the first one yelling from the fucking top of the rooftops. We need to hold him accountable to deliver on every motherfucking promise. Every single promise that this man has made, we should hold him to the fire to deliver. But what he is promising could literally save America. It could put us on a direction where then we, the people, can take it the rest of the way and root out the tyranny. But as long as the government is the size that the government is, we will never be able to vote them out. Somebody needs to get in and start hacking away at the government, reduce its size and its authority over the American people. And I believe Trump intends on doing that. I believe that he knows he can't run again. And this is like, okay, let's go for it. This is not, he does not have the normal transition team. It's also very fucking stupid that an incoming president, the transition team is set up by the person that they beat, which is weird to me, but he has his own private transition team, and he is assembling basically the super friends of freedom. And because he's done that, him reaching out to RFK, I'm voting for Donald J. Trump, 2024, to be the president of the United States that I hope can help save America. Because I am the first one to say, and I say it all the time, we are on a path that will have our country destroyed. If Trump does not win this election, I am worried that this will be our last election. I don't see how we can make it out of it. because frankly, if Trump loses, this is weird thing. We should think about this. If Trump loses, everybody that voted for Kamala, your children should go to the war she starts. Your children should go and, basically risk their lives for the resources of Ukraine. Your children should go and risk their lives in Iran so we can, fuck around in the Middle East, even though they've been fighting for 1,000 goddamn years. Your children should go do it. But the problem is most of you motherfuckers don't have children, and those that you have children, you've fucked them up so bad that they can barely fucking function. But if the ship doesn't get righted, look at it from every possible avenue, right? And I don't think people realize this. We are at a tipping point in society in multiple ways. First of all, we are absolutely on the brink of World War III, and they're happy about it because that makes money for people like Dick Cheney. Like, Dick Cheney makes money when we're at war. That's not even hyperbole. That's not rhetoric. That's factual. He makes money. Halliburton, look it up. He makes money when we're at war. He wants us to be at war because he makes money. That's his profit engine. It's like people wonder why we left all that equipment in Afghanistan. Like, why would we leave that equipment? You know why? Because we got to buy new equipment then. You know who makes money from that? People like Dick Cheney. Like, does everybody realize that? Like, us leaving billions of dollars over there in equipment made Dick Cheney money. And now Dick Cheney is endorsing Kamala Harris. Like, open your eyes, use logic a little bit, use critical thinking. I understand that people, I don't let the fucking broness fool you. All right. Critical think, please, people, because this is all about money and power for the elites. That's why when people are like, when the one ad goes across, Donald Trump just wants to help his billionaire friends, and they show Elon Musk, who has arguably done more for humanity than just about any other fucking person in the last century, in the last 100 years. The electric car thing, which I'm not a fan of electric cars, but people wanted them, so here they are. The fucking SpaceX program, Starlink for communication. Do you know how many people he's helped from around the world have communication? How much business he has enabled? I mean, that sort of thing. It's wild to me that all because he's supporting Donald Trump, he's evil now, because he allows free speech. How have we gotten here? Many of you are upset at Elon Musk because he allows people to have free speech. I saw this bitch. His name's Destiny. I'm sure many of you are familiar with him. He's like the human embodiment of bitch. Just really, he is. But let me see. Okay, here we go. This is this loser, Destiny. And
becoming a problem. It's not going. The issue right now is that the majority of the people in the United States of America that carry forward that really strict free speech banner do so maliciously. They do it as a...
Why does he talk like he's a cow chewing?
As a cancer, and they sneak in as a parasite to pretend that freedom of speech is what they really want. But what they really want is just the ability to lie with impunity and to do it for huge sums of cash. It's not becoming a problem. It's not going to become a problem. It is a problem, and it has been a problem. Even if we were too heavy-handed in a media censorship environment, that would be preferable to where we are right now, because the area that we're...
Censorship is never preferable. You are not an American. You are a fucking communist. You little ass bitch. You little ass bitch.
That we're at right now is deplorable. And there are too many people, Candace Owens, the Tim Pools, the Joe Rogans, the Robert Malones, the Lex Friedmans, these people who are, saying like, oh, we just want like all these people to come and have conversations. They're not there to have conversations. They're there to lie with impunity. And that's why they can never back up.
What has Rogan lied about? What has Robert Malone lied about? Like, you're making judgments without showing any data. I mean, and I don't expect you to, because I mean, this is a faux intellectual right here. This is somebody that thinks they're intelligent and they truly have an IQ of like a fucking mouth breather. But there is no such thing, and this is what I wrote about it. Free speech cannot be promoted maliciously, because he says something about malicious promotion of free speech. The First Amendment allows free speech. You should be able to say anything. Not only should you be able to say anything, but social media entities, which are our de facto town squares, should not be able to suppress or promote any of it. Like, it should just be everybody is treated equally in the algorithm, because as a newsflash, that's actually freedom of speech. If you can be suppressed and another person be amplified, their speech is graded as more valuable by that social media entity than yours. So you are being suppressed. You do not have freedom of speech because this person has freer speech. If we truly want free speech, social media entities need to absolutely, and I mean absolutely, allow anything to be said. And if you don't like that, don't go on the fucking internet. You make it so you can block out certain words that you won't see. That's fine, because you have the freedom to not listen. But these entities that are, again, our de facto town squares, they have no right to usurp the United States Constitution. And it should be the federal government's job to protect us from that motherfucking shit happening. Our federal government has 3 functions in its original intent. 3, to secure and protect our border. They are not doing that at all. So they are not doing one of the 3 pillars of their purpose. They should be providing common defense. Well, they booted a bunch of people out of the military for not, basically falling for medical apartheid. And now they have facilitated so much chronic illness by kissing the asses of big food and big pharma throughout the course of the decades that like 70% of military age young people are not physically fit enough to be in the military. So they're failing at that also. And they should be protecting our constitutional rights from the states actually, the states and other entities actually basically suppressing them. Our federal government should be reaching out to Facebook and be like, hey, I hear you're censoring conservatives. We are going to shut you the fuck down if that continues to happen. Or, hey, such and such entity, we hear you're censoring liberals. If you continue to do this, we are going to shut you the fuck down and seize your assets and give it to these people that you've suppressed. It is ridiculous to think that it has gotten so commonplace nowadays for censorship to be a thing, all under guise of, well, there's misinformation. There's no such thing as misinformation. If somebody is lying to you, prove them wrong publicly. That's why I challenge all the time. I said some wild shit about COVID, wild shit that all turned out to be motherfucking true, and everybody goddamn knows it. I was on point the whole fucking time. I believe I said in literally March of fucking 2020 that it's probably in line with the seasonal flu. It's just much more virulent, meaning it's much more permissible. Like the R was higher, that it was more contagious, right? So, and I was correct. And you know how you know I was correct? Because the study showing that even in the very beginning that it was in line with the seasonal flu when it comes to inferred infection fatality rate, that study is peer-reviewed and on the WHO website right motherfucking now. It's also on the NIH website. It's by Dr. John Ioannidis. And it's on their websites right now, showing that the inferred infection fatality rate for people under 70 was in line and in a lot of places lower. Like where I was at in Southwest Florida at that time, it was 0.08. The seasonal flu normally has an inferred infection fatality rate of 0.1 to 0.25. I was right about that. I was right about the entire thing. Masks don't work. I would never take an experimental gene therapy produced by historically corrupt companies in a historically corrupt industry that somehow got complete liability protection from our government to protect myself from something that I know for myself and anybody under the age of 70 was less deadly than the seasonal flu, as is seen on the World Health Organization website. So I was labeled as saying medical misinformation a ton. But it turns out I was 100% correct. So the people that were deciding that what I was saying was misinformation were actually the ones that were putting out what would be classified as misinformation by saying that I was putting out misinformation because the information I was putting out was 100% correct. And they were saying it wasn't correct. So they were the actual misinformers. And now I can prove them wrong, of course, because the data is openly accessible. However, they still will not allow me to say this on most social media entities because they still have to protect their daddy government and their daddy pharmaceutical rep. And most of the social media entities get about 75% of their ad revenue from the pharmaceutical industry. This is reality. The reality we are at is that I am voting for Donald Trump this coming Tuesday because our country will not make it another 4 years without him. It will not make it another 4 years without him. We need the Freedom Super Friends to fly in, reduce the size of the government, rein in our food system, literally cripple pharma, make the healthcare industrial complex understand that they are for acute injury and illness only. No doctor is actually trained on how to treat chronic illness in med school. They are not. You know how they're not trained to treat chronic illness? Because they're not trained about nutrition in med school. 80% of all med schools have no nutrition requirements. None. Zero. That is disqualifying for them to actually be treating chronic illness, which is mostly from metabolic disorder. If they were any good at what their jobs in taking care of public health, which are calling Dr. Fauci a public health expert is comical because we have 93.2% of the population is metabolically unhealthy. Not even spoken about by the doctor, by the public health expert. Not even spoken about, not even a fucking concern. Public health officials should be viewed as the most either incompetent fucks ever after 2020. Shit, after the last 40 fucking years, we have watched our expenditure for chronic illness go from 3% of what we spent to 90-some% of what we spend. We have watched it go from a few $1 million a year for chronic illness to over like $3.5 trillion a year spent on chronic and mental illness, which is almost all from metabolic syndrome, being metabolically unhealthy. And that's how they want it. That's literally how they want it. They are either so fucking incompetent that with all these medical advances, the most drugged up society in the world ever. We are the most drugged up society in the motherfucking world ever. Ever. And yet, we have never had higher rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, which is seen now, it's finally being seen as the metabolic disorder that it actually is. We are seeing higher rates of cancer, stroke than ever before. If our public health officials, if we want to view them this way, they are either so completely shitty at their fucking jobs, we should have fired them decades ago, or it is purposeful and they are serving other masters by keeping us sick and coming back for the comeback. Not one doctor that did not receive extra education after med school and just passed their boards is qualified to treat metabolic syndrome. They are not qualified to treat insulin resistance. They are not qualified because they know nothing and they coach next to nothing on literal lifestyle behavioral changes around their nutrition. None. I would gladly argue this with people too. I'll sit down with any doctor and ask them what they learned in their med school that made them qualified to treat somebody for metabolic syndrome. Because you know what they learned? Drugs. That's what they learned. Drugs. That's it. That's the first. It should be the last. It is the first step for them to treat it. It should be the absolute last step for them to treat it. You know, I saw an interesting statistic the other day that America makes up 4% of the world population, but yet we use 70% of the drugs of the pharmaceutical. We represent 70% of the total profits of the pharmaceutical industry. 4% of the population is 70% of the profits for the pharmaceutical industry. So then if you go and do some AI searches, you realize that the profit for the pharmaceutical industry in 2023, say, was $1.5 trillion. That was the profit for it. That's after they paid for all the advertisements. That's after they paid for R&D. That's after they paid for all of their all their scientists and all like that. $1.5 trillion in profit. $1.05 trillion of that came from America. $450 billion came from everywhere else. So when there's 8 billion people on the planet, an American citizen is worth 55.17 times more in profit than anybody else in the rest of the fucking world to the pharmaceutical industry. That has to change. That absolutely has to change. The pharmaceutical industry should make 4% of their total profits off of America, not 70. It is entirely too high. We need to rein that in. And that is another reason why I am voting for Donald J. Trump this coming Tuesday to be United States president, because he has on his team Bob Kennedy, who I have faith. I do think that there's a few things that he's not seeing, by the way, and I would gladly go over that with people. In fact, one of the things I can say is, yes, we need to fix the food system. Yes, we need to rein in pharma. Yes, we need to basically dissolve the FDA, the CDC, and the NIH. They're fucking worthless. The FDA is a pay-for-play, basically holding area to create pharmaceutical executives. Does everybody understand that? Like, people become the head of the CDC and head of the FDA, and their very next job is CEO of a pharmaceutical company. Wonder how that shit works, right? But where he's missing, and I do believe this is where he's missing, is our culture is based around gluttony and overconsumption. And we, like me, fitness people, stuff like that, we need to change that. We like all of these people just eating tons of food on camera because they think it's funny while they're 400 fucking pounds. We need to make that socially unacceptable again. And everybody's like, oh my God, you're talking about fat shaming. Yeah, I am actually. Totally. You know why? Because it fucking works. Ask Lizzo. I mean, we need to get there faster. We really, really, really do. So I, as a piece of white trash, apparently, because I'm garbage now, so I'll gladly be a piece of crack of trash. I am voting for Donald J. Trump this Tuesday to be president in 2024 for the next 4 years, so we can make America healthy again, so we can then make America great again. And we'll be back on Friday. I hope you all have a great day. It's just a quick one today, but everybody understand that what happens between Tuesday and inauguration is likely going to be the craziest time in our history. Everybody buckle up and be prepared. Have a great day.
It's Halloween week, and you're not going out to get candy. You're going out to get some gains. And we got gains for you at tigerfitness.com. Simply go to tigerfitness.com now and use coupon code TRICK, 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 to save 10% off site-wide, including MTS Nutrition, Creapure Creatine, the best creatine you can buy, the one that studies are on, the one that's from Germany, not that cheap Chinese stuff. Anyway, go to tigerfitness.com, use coupon code TRICK, and save now.